conquista tutto. L'amore conquista tutto.
And good evening and welcome to episode 39 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. What better way to start than with that particular song? I love that little opening, and of course that's my co-host. That's my co-host's new song that he's got out. I'm Curly. It's my pleasure as always to welcome my co-host. And after seeing how excited he got last week when he finally knew one of the food places that I share every week, it's I thought I'd find a classy Italian in Norwood. So, and that's an actual review, a classy Italian in Norwood.
Can I guess?
As is another review, Tave. Before you guess, I've been there a few times, but never enough. What am I talking about?
Are you talking about? It's on McGill Road.
That could be the place.
Ambrosini.
Ambrosini, the classy Italian in Norwood. I've been there a few times, but never enough. What a great little review that is. I love that. Welcome, Braggy. How are you? How's your week been?
Very well, Curly. I've had a great week. Ambrosini's is actually, I should have remembered that name because it's about 200 yards up the road from where I am.
My wife did a Google thing on how long it would take us to drive to Ambrosini's tonight. And while it's just around the corner from you and Yvette, it's a 22-hour drive for us here in Brisbane.
Mate,
if
it
we
is
were to
authentic
grab
old
Italian.
school Italians, not like modern mixture of Australian and Italian or or Asian Italian. It's the old school, mate. You get the big linguine. It's beautiful.
Great atmosphere.
And
great
fantastic
atmosphere.
surface.
And it's a place that I've actually eaten at, it's one that I can actually... So I get excited this week. Hey, before we introduce our special guest, a little bit of news this week. We have the new single out from Blind Season, who are, of course, our guests from Detroit. They were with us on episode 34. They've released a new single. It's aptly called Halloween, right in time for Halloween. And if you thought some of their other music was a bit dark and haunting...
This one written in the basement again. What a lovely guy. What a lovely guy he was.
He was. Great guy. The Basement Sessions, as we've called it. But Halloween, so wherever you are, whether you're on Spotify or Apple, check it out, or YouTube, because it is quite a haunting song. So without any further ado, let's introduce our talented guest. I'm reminded that he's fantastic with sarcasm, but he's also a singer, a songwriter, a producer, a mixer, a live performer, and a piano man. Please welcome Rob Stanier to the show. How are you, Rob?
Good, Curly. Thanks for having me. Love being here.
Another man
Hi,
born
Tave.
in Adelaide.
Yes,
I believe,
that's
Rob.
correct.
Is that right? Born in Adelaide?
Yeah, born in Adelaide, back in the...
We
lost right at the start of the
Rob's
season.
audience.
We might have lost Rob by the looks.
Oh, good timing.
We've been having some internet dramas, and it looks like Rob's caught in mid-chat. But, Rob was born in Adelaide. He's based in Townsville now. And so while we wait for Rob to get back in, or the internet to pick up, how did you come to know about Rob? Because Rob's done some producing work with you. Oh, Rob's back?
I got you back, yeah. I can hear you both now.
Okay.
Awesome.
Got you back, Tave. Don't know what happened then.
That's all right, mate. It's probably just the humidity in Townsville.
I think so, yeah. Well, I do have the air conditioner on, only to keep the sorry, go on.
Tell us how you ended up in Townsville, Rob.
Oh, well, that's the long way round. I when people used to ask me, it used to be a big, long explanation, but it got shortened down to I was born in Adelaide, grew up in Alice Springs, and settled down in Townsville. So, but that's via pretty much all of Western Australia and lots of outback places in South Australia. The only place I didn't spend a lot of time on is the East Coast, like the actual East Coast, until I moved to Townsville. So, yeah, that's the short version.
And you're a piano player mainly. That's your main bag, I guess.
Yeah.
And
I started.
I know Rob especially. We met where we both worked at a music store together, and then straight away, within a matter of a month, we were playing in a band together, and it just kind of continued on from then. I've always kept in touch with him, and Rob has helped write songs with me, produce songs, record songs, mix them down, the whole thing. Let's start with you playing solo piano, Rob, because that's how you started, hey?
Piano was always the thing. I actually didn't start singing until I was in my very early 20s, just before I hit 20. I'd never, ever sung a note in my life before that. So playing, but I started playing when I was 11. My mum and dad realised that they felt that I was fairly musical. I played recorder. So they told me one weekend, said, "Look, you clean up your bedroom, Rob, and we've got a big surprise for you." So I thought, "Oh, this is awesome! We're going to have a remote control car or something like that." And they wheeled in a piano. That was after 2 weeks of cleaning my room, 2 weeks solid. So,
geez, your room must have been messy.
It was pretty bad.
I'm still just trying to picture the recorder.
Yeah. So the room. I got on the piano, and the second my fingers hit the piano, you couldn't stop me. And my dad, my parents sent me this was in Adelaide, so they sent me to Hindley Street for piano lessons, which lasted for 9 months. And that's pretty much the only piano lessons I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
And I had to stop because my parents, I made the mistake. It was a 7:30 a.m. lesson. At 11 years old, I had to catch a bus on my own into the centre of Adelaide, and I had to go and do my lesson. And the teacher I didn't realise, but he was also a muso and a pretty heavy drinker. But 11-year-olds don't know that. I just knew that he was pretty much late every single day. He was like 10 minutes late for the lesson because mine was the first lesson.
Especially if it's on Hindley Street.
Yeah, he'd wander in a great big flap, and he'd start doing his thing. Right, Rob, just start playing your piano, start playing the piece you learnt last week. So I'd be there, like really, really thinking, and had my back to him. And this particular morning, I heard this. I was doing my do, and I heard this, and he'd started up his Razer because he was running so late. He had to come and do his shaving while I had my lesson. And I made the mistake of telling that to my dad, and he said, "Right, I'm not paying." Back then, it was $3.50 an hour, which is, I think, about $45 today. He said,
Wow.
"I'm not paying $45 a lesson just to pay for him to shave." So he pulled me out. But the bug had well and truly hit by then, so I just kept playing.
Now, Rob,
but I didn't sing.
You didn't sing back then. You sing now.
No.
Now, I know for a fact that you started recording things really early in your career, lots of different things. But I think tonight we're going to play something off your latest album, No Standing.
Yes,
tell us about that. How that came about.
Well, I mean, I've always done little bits and pieces of recording and stuff, but it's only with the explosion of what, Spotify becoming really, really popular, and a few services allowing you to put your music up there quite easily. Before, it was really, really hard to get heard, to a wider audience. And I hate to sound cliche, but I guess once the lockdown came in, once COVID hit, like you and I started talking, Tave, and we'd had a lot of ideas that we'd thrashed around, and I said, well, I found out about this service. Let's see if we can put something out. So I started working on songs and put it out.
Excellent. Rob, with pianos, is there different, like I'm a non-muso, I'm just a regular punter who's up at the front of the stage watching the band, but is there different styles of piano playing, and how would you describe yours?
Absolutely, there's different styles. I mean, you play, it's very similar to you know how in guitar, a classical guitarist or a flamenco guitarist is completely different to, say, a rock guitarist. The piano is pretty much the same in style-wise. You're just hitting exactly the same sounds with the keys. You know, like it's always a piano. But you know, there's the old rock and roll styles, and there's the sort of semi-classical style. Because I'm pretty much self-taught, I've found out that I guess my style would be just from playing modern tunes, like popular tunes. So, you know, they used to call me, well, I got the nickname in Townsville as the Piano Man, and that's because of, you know, very sort of Billy Joel-ish.
Like Billy Joel, yeah.
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 So do you play like the Billy Joels of the world? Do people sing? Is it like a sing-along session that you do?
It has been. I mean, you can't make it a sing-along session. But if they want to sing, yep, no worries. The only thing I've done is because I've worked out the other day. I'm just hitting 45 years of actual playing, and
wow.
And so now I've actually put a price on Piano Man. So if you want me to play Piano Man, not a problem. I'd certainly know the song. It will just cost you $100 in a tip. So
that's the way. Write it on the back of a 50
yeah.
if you got a request.
Yeah, I came up with the idea when I was working in Hobart of coming out with a menu, and I'd hand out menus, and it had the price of songs. So if it was a song I liked, it was only, you know, a couple of dollars in the tip jar. But if it was something like American Pie or Piano Man, it was like $100. Yep, no worries, put it in the tip jar. And someone did it once.
Was that at the casino, at Rest Point Casino, Rob, in Hobart?
Yeah, that's correct. In the Birdcage Bar, I played there for a while.
Birdcage Bar. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, I reckon we should play a song. What do you think?
All right, so we're playing Mad Dog Blues first. Do you want to talk a little bit before we put it on, Rob? Or?
Yeah, well, I can give you a bit of this song actually has a bit of a story behind it. I'm not married now, but I was married for 25 years. And my wife, she was encouraging, there's no doubt about that, but she wasn't like super encouraging, and she wasn't a massive fan of music, you know, like she couldn't understand why I just had to listen to music 24 hours a day. You know, so I'd write a song and I'd say, what do you think about it? Oh, that's nice, dear. You know, like that's pretty much all I'd ever get. And I got that for years and years and years. And then in 2007, it was probably only about 6 months before we broke up. I was in the bedroom and I heard my wife outside, and she was doing some gardening, and I was working on this song called Mad Dog Blues. And you know, I think I was working on the vocals. I played it over and over again. And she came in from her gardening a while later, and she said, what was that song you were playing? And I said, oh, it's a new one I written. She said, oh, I really like that song. But it was actually written, well, if you listen to the words, you'll understand it's about perhaps slightly disgruntled partner in as nice as possible way.
All right, let's put it on. This one's Mad Dog Blues.
She said, I want you here in my bed. I said, I need you like a hole in the head. Then we made love to the sound of the news. I've got the mad dog blues. She said, I really think you infused me. I said, I really think you confused me. So I went to the kitchen, I made up a brew. I've got the mad dog blues. you're warm. I'm like a sweet cut, all tender and torn. It could be raining, but you'll never know. My heart is aching, shaking and breaking and covered in layers of snow.
Pretty clever lyrics, Rob.
Oh, thank you.
My favourite line
Yeah,
is like a sweet cut, all tender and torn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, have
Yeah,
you
it was
played
sort of-
that one live?
I have actually. That's one of the few ones I have played live. Unfortunately, I made my whole reputation as a live music player has been based on playing cover music. So people that come to see me come to venues that are very, very solidly covered. So it's difficult
Yeah.
to play original music. However, I have, since I've released the album, I have played it in most venues that I've played at. And yeah, it's because it's got, yeah, it does get a fairly good reaction. So it's a fun
I can
song.
imagine. Yeah. That's it's got that little groove sort of thing happening. You could almost tee it off as someone else's song as a bit of a cover and get the audience to pick who it is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It's in that sort of a style, isn't it? So,
Well,
but the words are classics.
Thank you. As a performer, I've always used some form of backing, but I do a lot of my own backing. Obviously, I've got a recording studio. So it is a lot easier for me to slip it in, and especially since this album was released, it's probably the first album that I've been really happy with the bass and the drums and the most of the elements of it. So I can slip it in there, and people tend to not have any idea.
Rob, you've played solo piano, you played in duos, you played in bands. What's your favourite format to play live?
That's a hard one, Tave, because
I knew it was a good one.
yeah, I think you got me. No, definitely playing in a band is the juice. There's no doubt about it. In my opinion, it's just you've got that live feeling. You can people that like my stuff say that the vibe of the room is quite good, and that's what music's all about. It's all about creating a vibe. And as musicians, we're kind of channels for that vibe. So, when you're channeling a vibe, and then you've got someone standing right next to you playing this amazing music, then it can take you can take each other into the stratosphere.
I guess it's hard though. It's hard for you. A lot of times, I know for a fact in your life, you've had to rely on music to feed yourself. And so
that's right.
You can't always be in a band because they don't make any money most of the time.
Yeah.
You make the money playing solo.
Yeah, well, that's the whole reason that I went solo is because I had two very young children, and my first, the first priority is always your family. And as much as I loved music, I wasn't prepared to see my family starve. So I went down the covers road. But the thing, I've always had an argument with people because they've said to me, you know, oh, you're just using backing tracks because it's the old argument. You're just using backing tracks because of this. I use backing tracks literally to make me play better. Because if I've got a groove happening behind me, I play a lot better. So I'm not using it to cover up anything that I can't do. I'm just using it to make me play better and enjoy myself better, because there's a lot of nights where there's no one there, you know.
Exactly.
And giving a much fuller experience, I'd imagine, too, with the backing tracks. I mean, one of the guys that my wife and I ran into once when we were in Yamba is a guy called Churchill. I don't know if you've heard of Kim, but he's like an all-in-one band. He's got his feet that are working percussion, he's playing guitar, he's got the harmonica, and it's just like he works hard to produce such an amazing thing. But backing tracks are very, very similar. You're getting a full experience of the music as opposed to just someone doing an acoustic guitar or playing piano.
That's correct. I'll use a backing track, but I'll never, ever use it like as purchased or whatever. You know, a backing track I'll put my own signature onto the backing track.
You'll play the backing beforehand, pre-record the stuff yourself. So it's what you're hearing is actually all you anyway.
Yeah.
Except for the drums, maybe. You do a lot of things, but I see you don't play drums.
No, I don't play drums.
Me neither.
I rely on very talented drum programmers for that. Tave.
It's the fucking drums, Tave. You've got to hit them hard.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam,
I played with Sam on the weekend, and he just kept reminding me about that.
Yeah. 136
There's another
decibels.
T-shirt idea.
Yeah, it's the drums, Tave. Okay, what do we got? We going to play another one? I'm up for another one. Curly,
Yep,
what do you
okay.
got? What do you got lined
So,
up?
Addicted to You. How's that?
Ooh.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
Talk me through that one.
Okay, that's well. There's not a lot. It was just it's just basically a song that came to me where I thought, well, imagine if you were addicted to someone, you know, like you were addicted to a drug or whatever, you know, and I just wrote a song around it. The only thing that I really enjoyed was that's a really strong. I love harmonies, and I love producing them, and I love recording them, and I put a lot of work into the harmonies, and there's some nice little swells in the harmonies that I do that I was quite happy with. So
excellent. Let's tee it up and let's get going.
In the morning light, beyond a dream-filled night, quietly I muse, hopefully of news, that you are thinking of me. Busy I may be, working dreamily, with the thought of you, enough to see me through. You are there inside me. I'm addicted to you. Addicted to you. I'm addicted to you. I'm addicted
different feel to that first one.
Yeah.
There, Rob, isn't it? Much different feel.
It is. Yeah, I don't even know how I would describe it.
It's a
But I
Sunday
will
session
say,
kind
like-
of feel, Tony.
Yeah, that's got a Sunday session feel to it for sure.
Yeah, it's got a nice groove, I think. And I have to say something about collaboration. This is, I mean, obviously, as you know, Tave collaborated on the whole album with me, and it's in my, I believe that collaborating with someone can sometimes really, really bring out the best, or just little ideas like that particular song. Just as it was playing. I was listening and I remember we had a discussion because there was a little middle eight section, and Tave and I were talking about it, and Tave said, well, it's not really, doesn't really suit the song. Why don't we try this? And, we changed it, and it sounds great, it's got the groove.
You're right, it does help, just that extra brain, and it doesn't even have to be another muso. It can just be, it could be Tony. I can play Tony a piece of the song maybe, and he can say, I really like that, it reminds me of this, and then you go, it's exactly what I should be doing. It doesn't take another muso,
or you could play
someone to hear it differently.
You could play a song and someone might say to you, that sounds a bit like Patsy Bisco or something like that.
Yes, you could, Rob. Now there's the first trace of sarcasm, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what that song is, bud? I mean, this could be part of the sliding category scale. That's sidling up to the bar, trying to impress the girl beside you. You've got that groove happening.
Yes.
And maybe you're singing along to the words, that sort of thing. So it's the old sidle up to the bar grooves. And,
it is. Yes, it is. Oh,
we've
got another playlist, Tony. The sidle up to the bar playlist.
Yeah, I tell you what, Curly, that's I'm going to use that. I hope you don't mind, but
go for it.
Introducing it, anyone that wants to sidle up, this next song is for them.
Rob, Curly is brilliant at putting songs in their correct categories.
Oh, it's the context. It's and maybe that's the sort of like the bridge between the Sunday session and that frantic night on the piss. You've got to sidle up to the bar at some stage.
It's early in the night, isn't it? It's early in the night. You just sussing the place out. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah. Okay, Rob, we talked about
morning light.
Yeah. We talked about playing the piano. We talked about playing live.
Yeah.
I got a question about you about recording, because you've recorded lots of people. You've got your own little studio there in the background. I can see lots of computers and different things going on.
It looks like you've got the old CD-ROM on the screen. The old CD.
No, that's actually a what do they call it? A
test pattern.
Oh, the circle of fifths.
Ah,
all the keys.
That's a
and
that's a whole other episode, Tony.
Yeah.
If I need a quick reference to about keys and stuff and relationships.
That's a theory episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Music theory episode.
Heavy theory.
What I was going to ask was recording, because you recorded lots of people and you recorded yourself and you recorded me and you recorded my band as well, which was you were in.
I did, yeah.
Blow Up Sweethearts. Is there any set rules at all to recording?
No, there's not, Tave. If anyone wants to know, wants to question rules or whatever, then there's a YouTube clip with Phineas, who is Billie Eilish's brother, and he tells this story on the John, one of the talk shows, and he tells the story about how he was visiting Australia and that he was freaked out, well, not freaked out, but he just couldn't believe the sound of the crosswalk things, the do-do-do-do-do-do.
When you cross the road.
Yeah.
Like when you cross the road, stop the walk and stop the walk thing.
Yeah.
It goes
and when it goes walk, it goes
for the blind people.
And he loved that sound, so he recorded it on his iPhone went back to the studio in America, and he used that as a hi-hat sound on Bad Guy. The song that goes do 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 do. If you listen really closely, you can hear the as a hi-hat, and that's what I mean. In today's with technology today, really, there's absolutely nothing. A good example is the when we recorded Tave's album over on Maggie Island, he wanted a spoken piece. And I think you've told this story, haven't you, Tave?
I did tell the story, yeah.
And I had a roommate at the time, and she had a really lovely speaking voice, and we wanted her to do it, but she couldn't come over to the island. So I said, just record it on your phone and send it to me. So she sent it to me, and then I plugged the phone into the desk and played it through the studio monitors and recorded that, and then we put that onto the album. Like this, you can do pretty much anything with technology these days.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Tave gives a lot of given that dual producing credit to Stephen Jobs on that album, didn't you?
Oh, definitely. We used the phone so much. We used it to rehearse. We'd record things. We'd listen to it back. We used it to play things back because. And then we recorded things
we
out
recorded
in the field.
And the kookaburras, all of those.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was all the iPhone. And go on.
To think that back in the day, the Beatles are always stuck in a studio with just 4 tracks, and so. Yeah,
Paul McCartney had a tape recorder by his bed, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've got. You have the most basic setup at all. You can still make good music if you can record it somehow.
True. Yeah, that's right, Tave. I think the last 10 sort of tutorial things that I've seen about people making music, they all use their phone to write lyrics down, to to get ideas, to hum things into. It's just it's amazing what technology has done.
What other questions did I have here? Before we play the next one, I can't see you, Rob. Can you still hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
You, over the years, have done... Because a lot of times Tony and I on this show have talked about how music is so good for your soul, and even the people we've talked to...
just lost you, Tave.
Blind Season, the guy.
I think we've lost.
He was going through a down period, so he just locked himself in his basement.
He's got a little
and
cheeky
songs
look on
came
his
out,
face.
and he used it.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The internet's been obviously playing up in Adelaide today. So
I think he said there's storms down there, and I heard it's not raining at your place, is it?
I think we may have lost Rob.
Storms and rain are forecast, but at the moment we haven't had any come through. So
because I think I heard some
it's
rain
quite funny
starting.
seeing him. Yeah.
We should do the same.
And it never rains in Townsville, does it? Unless it's poured.
Oh no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's pretty full on in Townsville. We've had our share of water.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to that season too. As much as we do have floods and cyclones, it's quite an exciting time.
Curly, I can't hear either of you.
Okay, so we've lost him altogether, so he might be refreshing.
Yeah.
That must have been really an interesting episode, doing the blow-up Sweethearts at Horseshoe Bay at Maggie Island.
Oh, it was wonderful, Curly. It was just a really, to be a bunch of guys all staying in the same house and recording, and it was much like you read about people how they recorded in the 60s and 70s. They would go into a studio and they'd stay in the house and they just get up in the morning and start making music, and then do it until whenever, and go out and get some dinner, have a few beers, and sit around, and at night time you'd stop recording. At night time you sit around with the guitars going over harmonies or different parts, or discussing the music and stuff, and then you get back into it. It was
So an
really-
album like The Blow Up Sweethearts, how long did that take to put together and do actually all that hard work of recording?
Well, the recording, we went over and we recorded all of the drums and bass in one pass, and then we added the guitars, and then we added the vocals. So we did it kind of in stages, and that was only because we didn't have the isolation that we needed to be able to record everyone at the same time. So we did that, and then that was 2 weeks, and then it was probably about, I'd say, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, reasonably solidly of mixing. And that's mixing. Mixing's funny because your ears can always play tricks on you, so there's a lot of back and forth. So you'll get something, you think, yeah, that sounds really good. Send it to the boys, and Tave will say, oh, well, this is too loud, and you listen back and go, oh, yes, that was too loud, or whatever. So you start with a piece of stone and you chip away and get a basic shape, and that's the recording process, and then the mixing process is probably actually creating the actual look. And mastering is kind of polishing it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's by the looks of it, Tave's been hit by a really bad storm. There's trees and branches falling down, so we may not get him back, Rob. So, but no doubt he'll keep trying. So let's have a listen to "Moving On," shall we? Because I know you want to play. You've been very specific. The song that you want to go last. Tell me about "Moving On." What's that about?
Well, "Moving On" was it was a period in my life before my marriage ended, and and at that time I was spending 6 months of the year in Townsville and 6 months of the year in Tasmania, but it was 2 month stints. So I would do 2 months in Tasmania, fly back to Townsville, do 2 months there, fly back. So I was like doing two. I was almost two different people, and "Moving On" is not necessarily saying I'm going to move on, but it's more so the case of what's it, basically questioning whether I should move on, because I hadn't made the decision that things were going to end or anything. And so it's more of even though it's probably more of a reflection song. And I've got no doubt that there's going to be so many people listening to this that sort of can identify with that particular scenario, going through that process of, should I be moving on? Should I be taking that chance?
I'm moving on. blind. Is this the one to make me serious? Enough to mortgage out my soul. This may seem to be nefarious. This may seem a little cold.
So I really have to say that each of those three songs have been completely different. You don't want to sort of sit within a. You don't want to be stereotyped, do you?
No, I think, you know, all my life I've had an incredible love of music, and
Yeah.
I've always, I guess, because I've been playing other people's music for so many years, I've just, I've kind of learned that a good song is a good song because,
Yeah.
you know, when you're playing covers, you're doing anything from, you know, from. I used to do Enter Sandman by Metallica on the piano.
Oh, truly on piano.
Yeah, and squeal that out, you know. And so all of these styles, I guess they come in, you know, and I get influenced. And I just, when I write a song, I just think, well, what am I going to? I don't say I want to do a certain style or whatever. It just comes out how it comes out, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a style, but it's not. It possibly covers a few genres.
Yeah, it certainly does. So when you write a song or when you start to frame the song in your mind, does that shift much to what the final product comes out? So we've talked to many artists that say, yeah, it shifts a lot, you know, based on, you know, maybe some other people's opinions or thoughts. Do yours? Because I'm presuming you do a lot of work yourself with what you do, but you also get some collaboration on it. So do you see the songs shift as you start working with them?
Most definitely. It'll start out, and the collaboration side of it is really great because another person might see the big picture. I mean, the obvious the person I work the most with is Tave. So I'll present a song, and I'll have it, you know, maybe drums, bass, and a little bit of a vocal track and a piano track. And he'll go, well, what if the feel was this instead of this feel, you know? And suddenly the song will start changing. You know, it's a very, very elastic process, I think.
Yeah. Now, Tave also, when he talks about his recent music, obviously acknowledges the help and support and the productions that you've helped with there. But he also makes the comment that he's gone down this sort of disco track because none of his bandmates appreciate it. So walk me through that. How do you feel about some of Tave's? Seeing that he's not on and, you know, he's sitting there trying to get back into the studio, I'm thinking. So how do you feel?
Now.
Go for it.
Look. I was born in the '60s, so I went through the whole disco revolution, and there's some disco music I absolutely adore. So I definitely like the style, but the disco thing. I think Tave's disco music is more than disco. We started talking about this probably 12 months ago, and the two songs that he's released, they were germs of an idea probably, I reckon, maybe even this time last year. And we even, like, because you don't start with a song name, we didn't know what to call it. Tave just basically had a disco beat and a bass riff. And so at the time I was recording in a container, which I converted to a music room, and I did the container.
I'm back.
And hey, how you going?
We were just talking about you, Tave. So
yeah, telling stories about you, Tave. And we didn't know what to call these songs, so we just called them that. Like the studio was now officially called the Sound Container, so we just called it. The songs were called SCD1 and SCD2, which stood for Sound Container 1 and Sound Container 2. Sound Container Disco 1 and Sound Container Disco 2. So there, and they morphed into these amazing disco songs.
Yeah, it's I always love spending time with Tave because, you know, we were coming back from the wineries one day. I mean, we've been to Adelaide, I think, twice, and we've caught up. And we're coming down there from the Adelaide Hills, and Tave starts playing some of the stuff that he's just sort of put together on his iPhone. And one of the songs was I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but it was inspired by a Dwight Yoakam song, and it was "Have You Ever Been South of Thuringowa?" And it was just such a
I haven't released that one yet.
such a beautiful little song.
Yeah, he's got a few. He likes.
So we've just done
Moving
Moving On.
Oh, we've done Moving On. That's my favourite song on the album. I love that song.
Yeah, it's I mentioned that the three songs so far have just all been completely different.
Yeah,
so
I love that song.
Curly,
it reminds me of coming home.
Yeah, so Curly, what part of the when you're standing in the bar and you want to get the girl or whatever, what part of the night would you play that song?
Moving On. That's a rejection song. That's you've sidled up to the bar and it hasn't worked, and you're walking out with the tail between the legs. So.
Or maybe the next morning from her apartment.
Now that's definitely a road trip song.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
That's
Moving On.
in the car where you're travelling somewhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's got a great feel.
I like that one. So, did you answer my question about the music therapy?
No, we didn't hear the question.
What I was saying before, I got branches down and everything out here. You and I, Curly, have talked about on previous shows.
Yeah.
And I said, especially with Blind Season and that, about how music's so good for your soul. And a lot of the musos we've had on have said, sometimes when I'm feeling down, I just go and start, and songs come out, and it's really good.
Yeah.
To try to get your brain right sometimes. Doesn't always. It's not always the end, the be all and the end all. But Rob's actually done some real work with that sort of stuff. Tell us about that, Rob. That was my question.
Okay, in 2000, I started a university course, a Bachelor of Music, which I only survived 6 months into. That's a whole nother.
Bit like piano lessons, Rob.
Yeah, something like that. I got into uni for RPL and recognised prior learning, and I just couldn't handle the crunch came when the professor. I walked into the class and he had the chords for Peggy Sue up on the blackboard, and it's a 12-bar, so it's got 3 chords in it, and he started with this big thing about, oh yes, when the Everly Brothers, when they wrote this song, well, yes, they they started in A, and then they went to the subdominant, which is the G, and then they went down, and then they eventually resolved the whole song down to the back to the tonic, and he's going on and on about this, and all I've got thinking in my head is, the Everly Brothers were 2 young kids. Their dad bought them a guitar, or somehow they got hold of a guitar. They learnt 3 chords, and they said, "Oh, this sounds good. What if I go here? Oh, that sounds good." And then they wrote a song about it. So anyway, one of the good things about the university is I became a friend of one of the students there, and she went on to finish the course, and then she started up in music therapy, and I ran into her a few years later, and she said, "Rob, we're about to start something for the Mater Hospital, working with Vietnam vets and dealing with their PTSD. Would you like to come and become involved?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to." So we started this music therapy thing where it was like a 14-week course, and it was for people suffering from PTSD, and it was proper therapy for anger management and dietary and learning how to interact socially, but also part of it was 2 or 3 music lessons not music lessons, but 2 or 3 music sessions every week. And we started by getting them all to play their favourite songs, and then we worked through to teaching them Everly Brothers style, 2 or 3 chords on the guitar or whatever, so they could bang out a thing, and then eventually they would write a song or write some poetry.
Oh, wow.
And then at the end of the
cool.
14 weeks, there was basically like a graduation ceremony, and the ones that felt comfortable, which was nearly always all of them, would get up and play the song or read the poetry that they'd written. And the change in 14 weeks from how troubled they were at the start to the end was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
You could really see it,
So, and so I ended up doing, about 3 or 4 years of this, and eventually I did some of them just on my own, and it moved toward went from Vietnam vets in the mid 2000s to the mid 2010s, working with people from the Middle East with PTSD, the Afghan returned soldiers and stuff like that. So it went from a bunch of really old guys, to a bunch of really young guys.
But you've done some stuff with some of the kids with disabilities too, haven't you?
Yeah,
like choir and stuff?
Well, last year I was asked to work with the local organisation, Kutharinga organisation. They deal with people with disabilities, and they asked me to come and do a choir, and I worked with probably about 20 to 30 young kids, probably in their late teens to early 20s. And a similar thing, it's just so amazing to see just how they changed. There was one young guy, probably about 18. His name was Jack, and he was almost non-verbal, and yet after about a month of choir, because it was the people with the disability plus their carers, and this boy's carer called me over and said, "Oh my God, he's singing out loud," and so
wow.
Even though he didn't talk, he would sing, and it's again, it's the, as you say, Tave, it's the power of music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a great story. So we're closing in on the hour, gentlemen. So we've got one more song to play. So this is called Razer on My Mind. I had very clear instructions. This was the final song. So tell me what's Razer on My Mind?
Okay,
It sounds very dark, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it sounds really dark, and the words are kind of sort of tempting you to think that it's dark, but the story behind it was I was playing at the Sheraton Hotel, which is now the Ville in Townsville, and I was
horrible name, by the way, just horrible name.
Yeah,
that's
the
right.
Ville. Yeah, I know.
Damn.
So I was working there, and I was friended. I became mates with the IT guy there. His name was Jeff. Really lovely guy, and him and I were quite friendly, and we both had this I guess, for want of a better word, a crush, on Teresa Livingston from Aggro cartoon, and we both used to watch Aggro. This is like I'm in my 30s or 35 or something like that. We both used to watch Aggro. So, and we used to talk about it, but we decided we couldn't let the world know that we had a crush. You know, us old guys had a crush on this young girl. So we invented a code. So we would say every time that we were thinking about her, we'd say, "Oh, I've got Razer," like Teresa, I've got Razer
Yeah.
on my mind. So hey, I'd be playing the piano, I'd be playing away, and it's a fairly open sort of lobby where I was playing, and he'd walk past, and he'd go like this, and he'd go like that, and then like that. Well, actually, no, other way, and he'd go, yeah. So he was saying, yeah, I've got Razer on my mind. And so I said to him, I said, you know what, one day I'm going to write a song about that. So I wrote a song, and it just become this crazy. And it all started with the riff on it. The piano riff is something that I wrote when I was 16. And again, I always wanted to put it into a song. So
All right. Let's put it on. Let's see what it's like. Oh, what?
I'm so unhappy, working 9 to 5, but it keeps me going, it keeps me alive. It's a wonder I survive, 'cause I've got Razer on my mind. There it goes again, that telephone. Wish they all would leave me alone. Was enjoying my own time, 'cause I've got Razer on my mind. It's a matter of saying that most of the time you're having the day that aches and the shine. The listener has come and you're facing the ground, and it's easy to feel that all life is a crime. Sick and tired of everyone round here. Wish they all would just disappear, leaving me to unwind. 'Cause I've got Razer on my mind. Composers and soldiers of big bands will rhyme. If you pull it too hard, then you start to go blind. You have to mix it and you feel the rhyme. Come out of the darkness and walk to the line.
oh, nice guitar
That's
solo.
groovy.
Yeah,
Who
it
did
grooves
that
along a
guitar
bit.
solo?
That was Tave.
Is it? Who did the brass? Who?
Oh, that's
fake
program
brass.
brass. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm allowed to
I
have
love
fake, if I'm allowed to have fake grass outside my house, I'm allowed to have fake brass on my music.
Absolutely. No, that's a pretty groovy little song, you know. And the little bit of how would I describe that? I don't know if it's the chorus, but where you've got all the jumbled sort of vocals happening.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
it's like what is there a technique there, or is to me it's just
It's
like
not-
people whispering and it's rumors.
Yeah. There's actually a lot going on there. There's probably about 4 or 5 vocal tracks of me talking and whispering, and then mixing them together. And also I had pitch changes going, so it's so as I'm talking, the pitch is going up, and some of them are coming down.
Yeah.
And it's just meant to be a real big jumble. It's my version of trying to be creative like they were in the 60s.
Wow.
That's why Rob's such a good producer, because he comes up with little ideas like that.
Yeah.
A lot of work goes into him, you don't realise, but you picked up on it straight away, Tony.
Yeah, and it's just
that's
it just
good.
makes there's songs that are just made even more interesting and more compelling just by something that the artist saw, or something that the producer saw. when I'm listening to Afterlife by Jeff Allen, and we had Jeff on the show here, and just when those guitars kick in, only in the second version of the chorus, it just hits me every time. Just that layer of guitars that just comes in underneath like a dirty torrent coming down the river. It just sort of nails the song, and then it builds from there. So,
Tony, you know what? You would have been back in the day when they used to make albums. You'd get the back of it, and they'd have a thing called liner notes.
Yeah.
Right? And they'd talk about you would have been fantastic at that. Like the dirty river of guitars that comes in underneath. It's fantastic.
I guess it's just the way that you visualize the music as you go. So, and I love that. Well, Rob, it's been an amazing journey tonight, and we've had storms in Adelaide. We've lost Tave there for a while. We've somehow managed to hold that connection with Brisbane and Townsville anyway, and those South Australians just need to look after their NBN a little bit better, I'd say.
Yeah,
I think so. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been great. Yeah, the only thing I haven't seen is your I haven't seen yours and Tave's 7 inches yet.
Okay.
Do you want to go first this week, Tave?
Yeah, I'll go first this time.
And for those listeners that were watching last week, I sent Tave a photo during the week of, you would remember that he spoke about the Spliffs, and it was a single from the band in Townsville, and I sent him a copy of the album that I've got sitting here in my record collection. My record collection's nowhere near the size of Tave Bragg's. I might just throw that in. But I've got one that he wants, and he sent me the price guide from Discogs as to what I could sell it for.
Shouldn't have done that, I should have said, that's worth nothing, Tony. May as well send it to me.
Absolutely. So what's your 7-inch for today? Mind you, I can't see you at the moment, so I can now see you back. So it's all good.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Ooh.
You can see that?
Yeah.
That's Fraternity. Who's Fraternity? Well, this guy right there.
Oh,
is
that
Bon
looks
Scott.
a bit like... Yeah.
That's Bon Scott. So that's the first band Bon Scott was in Adelaide.
Oh, wow.
Before AC/DC. And if you look up close here, we might be able to see his name somewhere there. Where is it?
It certainly doesn't say stolen from Triple M this week.
No, that one doesn't say that. Yeah. Is he there?
Oh, wow. I can't see it.
You can't see it?
You just dropped out.
Anyway, I dropped out again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's my one for today. Bon Scott, before he was with AC/DC. They were like a real hippie sort of band. I think that photo, people can't probably see it later, is up in the Adelaide Hills somewhere.
Oh, wow. So what would something like that be worth, just as a matter of interest?
I reckon that one must be close to $100. It's not, the cover's not in the best condition, but the vinyl itself, look at that, it's on Raven Records.
Raven Records, wow.
So it must have been just an independent sort of thing. And what year is that? Does it say? Doesn't say. So yeah, I reckon it'd be close to $100 for that one. That's pretty rare. AC/DC fans would be after that one. So.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in Europe.
So I've got.
What have you got, Tony? Show us your big 7-inch.
I was just checking who produced this. So this is one of the defining songs out of Brisbane. It's the Screaming Tribesmen. It's a song called Igloo. It's actually got a songwriting credit, and that's the band in behind. We've got Murray Shepherd there, who's Brad Shepherd's brother, I believe. In the middle, we've got Mick Madoo, and of course, there's a reason why I'm also showing this. And then there's John Hartley, who was the guitarist.
Yep.
Produced by Chris Mazurek from The Hitman. And Alan Thorne came out on Citadel Records. I think it came out on Sonic Records, but manufactured ultimately by Citadel. This song was there's a couple of Mick's done a couple of remixes of the song. I think the original is about 81, 82 maybe, 83.
Brisbane in 82, 83. It's the Joe era. You had
Yep.
the Go-Betweens. The Go-Betweens would have been around
Yeah, and
at the same time.
you know,
Maybe the Saints.
this was like the number one song on the 4ZZZ Hot 100 for about 52 years in a row. Maybe not that long, but it felt like that. And as I said, Ron Pino from Died Pretty fame gets a songwriting credit on that. And of course, we're hoping to start the new year with Mick Madu on the show. I reached out to a Facebook group that specialised in the era that I love, the 80s, and the independent music of Brisbane bands. And Mick's agreed to be on the show. So really excited.
That's going to be great to find out what it was like in Brisbane at that time with Joe being in power and him closing down venues and things, and how much of a struggle it must have been for musos.
Absolutely. And when what amazes me about Mick Madu, right, is he's still playing. He's got Mick Madu and the Mesmerisers out there nowadays.
That's a great name.
He, just the quality of musicians that he's played with and that have been a part of his bands, So he started with a band called the 31sts, and Brad Shepherd was a member of that band. And as we know, Brad Shepherd went on to be the Hoodoo Gurus. Ron Pino, lead singer and one of the most charismatic stage people ever in Australian music, from Died Pretty, was part of that as well. And then Chris Mazurek from the Hitmen ultimately joined Screaming Tribesmen during that era with, where the Tribesmen were probably the greatest success that they had. So we're hoping. May have some technical issues with Mick, but we are hoping. He's agreed to come on the show. We've locked it in for January 13th, so we're really excited about that one. But yeah, Screaming Tribesmen, Igloo, and it is available on Spotify and Apple and all of those places. So, Tave, once again, an amazing show. Thanks for showing your 7-inch. It's always good that people can check that out. In the coming weeks, we've got Alison A. Sarch coming to us from Nashville next Thursday. So
is that next week, is it?
Next week, we're going to Nashville. The week after that, on the 11th, we've got Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids. We'll be talking about Scars and Regrets and, the momentum that the Ritzy Kids are starting to pick up, which once again is just so exciting to see a band that's being picked up, played on radio, and really some of that hard work that they're putting in is being realised. And then on the 18th, and this is going to be an interesting one, we've got a Brisbane band called The Spillage. So as I mentioned, I'd reached out to a group and these guys connected with me and they've got a great story about kebabs. So I can't wait to share them. And they've got some pretty cool music. So it's a rock and roll story, Tave. It's a rock and roll story.
Can't wait, mate. That's what we like on here.
So just to give a bit of a hint, they were playing in the 90s and now they're back. So and there's a kebab in there. So it's a great story. All of our episodes, of course, are available on our website at unfilteredandundiscovered.com. Don't forget, we've got our socials. We've got our YouTube channel. Just do a search for Unfiltered and Undiscovered. That's the best way. We're on Facebook. At facebook.com, Unfiltered and Undiscovered. Enjoy our Spotify playlist. We'll be adding Rob's songs to our Unfiltered and Undiscovered playlist on Spotify. We also have one for the protest songs, so just do a search there on Spotify for Unfiltered and Undiscovered. You will find us for sure. So to sign off, and as we know, so before sign off, Tave, have I missed anything? Because I normally do.
No, I don't think you have, mate. I think you've covered all the social medias that we're on. I think the only thing we're not on is TikTok. We've got to fix that.
No, sorry. I'm glad you reminded me. We are on TikTok, Unfiltered Undiscovered. So we are now on TikTok. So that's good. So in the words of the great Paul Weller, when you're knocked on your back and your life's a flop, when you're down on the bottom, there's nothing else but shout to the top. Thanks for joining us tonight. From me, it's Hooroo, and from the team here, we've got Tave and we've got Rob,
See you
thanks for
guys.
once again coming on the show.
Thank
I
you.
hope
Thanks for
everyone's
having me.
enjoyed it.
Been
Well
great.
done.
Thank you.